Back for a very short edition of Tennis Talk Daily. We're covering the Australian Open, and we're thinking right now about Roger Federer and his match, his first round match, which he prevailed in a 6-3, 6-4, 6-3 victory over Bedin. But listen, I watched the match a little bit more. There was, without question, a lot of unforced errors from Federer's side of the court. His opponent made a number of unforced errors as well. But when you look at the match stats and you look at the service games, Federer does appear to be operating basically on the important cylinders, as it were. He's not quite firing on every cylinder he needs to fire on to get to the final and to win the championship. The backhand was a little bit rough today. It was sort of rough sledding with the backhand. I mean, he was hitting some nice slice shots, and those have a lot of potential. People love it when he gets into that sort of neo, over-the-top backhand, and he puts a lot of pace on the ball, and those can be just devastating shots. And there were a couple of those in this first-round match. He certainly, has that tool in his little toolbox still. But he was also just making a number of errors. He does seem to be having a good... He's got a good mental approach. That's what Matt was saying over at Coffee Break Tennis, which is what I really agree with Matt on this particular point, which is that Federer appears to be, it's kind of that grumpy old goat, as Matt called it, and I think that there's some truth to that. He's got the right kind of mindset right now, which is... he's not, he's not joking around a lot on the court. He looks dead serious about this tournament, which is a very positive sign. He was moving very, very well. And overall, it looked fine. I mean, he does need to get warmed up. He does have a few cylinders that he needs to sort of warm up with and start firing so that he can be sort of the full-blown super Federer by the end. But there are going to be some tough matches for him, but they're not really now. The second round doesn't look too tough for him necessarily, but it's going to get a lot harder for Federer. But you know what? He looks very much up to the task. Very much up to the task. So, as I was watching him today, he was just moving so well. And, you watch some of the highlights. You have to be careful with these highlights. You don't really get a sense of the real match from these highlights. And when you watch the real match, the real pace of this match, it was okay. He needs to improve. And of course he will. He's got to get warmed up. But this was kind of a walk in the park for him today. He did a fine job, and it was a pleasure to watch him. As he was moving around, I was thinking to myself, may God bless him so that he doesn't, I just think it would be so devastating if he were injured, if he, does a wrong slide. He also seems to be really good, good with that and conservative with the way he moves around the court. He's not doing things on the court that it seems like that are presenting a high risk of injury. So I'm trying not to worry about that. That's just a total speculative thing. But basically, it's a positive sign that I'm worrying about that because it means I'm kind of looking for something because you know what? He looked good. He looks thin and sort of trim, which is a good thing. Sometimes he sort of eats during the breaks, and that could be sort of the holidays. He comes back just a little bit plumper. This has happened on a few occasions. It doesn't usually yield good results, but he looks thin, lean, and mean. And so it was just great to watch him. It looks very positive. He's going to be the champion again this year, and it's coming. So the players that are in line in front of Federer that are going to have to meet him better get prepared for the champion to sort of roll through because it's going to happen, and he has the right tools working. Again, there are a couple cylinders that he needs to start firing on a little better, and with the backhand, that's important. But He's got a forehand that actually, I mean, he was kind of running around a few of those. He does that fairly often. He'll run around the backhand and tee off on the forehand, which is a very, very effective move too. So again, he's got a number of tools in his toolbox that he can emphasize or de-emphasize. But the one final thing I'll mention about the Federer match is that he might not want to be sort of showing his cards. He might have more tools in the toolbox. He might have some new ideas, new approaches that he wants to do, and he might not be wanting to sort of show the cards to his opponents. Remember, his opponents, everybody's watching Federer. What's he playing like? What's he doing? How can we beat Federer? Well, he knows that. He's very much aware of that. So I'm not convinced that all of what he does on the court is totally directed toward winning. Win. I mean, for example, he doesn't tend to do the breadsticks and the bagels. I think when he gets the breaks, he starts to play freer, and then he kind of makes more errors. But he uses it as sort of a training session or kind of an experimental session sometimes. But listen, he's always trying to win the match. But there's some interesting dynamics to the way he plays, and I think he does let service games go. When the other side is serving, sometimes, he'll let those games go. He's got to be very conservative and smart with the way he expends his energy. And one of the great things about Roger Federer is that he's a very smart player. So he thinks through these things. He's a very sort of, in a way, a kind of cerebral player. He does it naturally and intuitively, but it's there. It's part of his game. So, listen, he looks great. We got some great matches coming up on day 3, which has already begun. The ones we're looking at are Shapovalov, and Tsonga, which is going to be a very interesting match. And I think Shapo has a very good chance. Tsonga can be a very devastating tennis player, and he's feared when he's on. But I think Shapo's got a good chance. Be looking forward to what is going to happen. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for essential tennis commentary. Look forward to talking more during the Australian Open. Peace. Bye-bye.